And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Beyond the Sun. Now, when I first heard about Beyond the Sun, they said this is a technology tree game, which you're going to be, developing different technology and then playing the game. And I got to be honest, I'm a little suspect of that because I played so many games that have tech trees in them, and the only ones I've ever seen that really work are the tech trees that are part of the bigger 4X games, the Explore, Exterminate, Exploit, and whatever the other one is, Expand. And those techs affect the rest of the game. Games that are about tech trees, they might be a decent game, but the tech tree itself is very abstracted out. So I don't know. But it is a space theme. I am certainly drawn in like a fly to tech trees, so I gave it a whirl anyway. Each player is going to have their own player board where you're going to have a bunch of these resource cubes, or they look like dice, but they're essentially cubes, and you're going to be placing those here in A, B, C, D, and E columns. And then you have a population growth track and an ore production track at the bottom. You also start with a couple people, a couple colonists here, and a spaceship, which will start in a spaceport, and I'll show you that in a bit. Each turn of the game, you are going to be placing a worker somewhere on the board, on the main board, and taking the action. And then you're going to do one of these three things in your production phase. You'll get population, which means each column here where underneath it's uncovered, so A is always uncovered, you'll turn one person into a population. If these two discs were removed, and different actions will do that, then I could also produce one from the B column. Or I can take ore. You always get one ore, but every other one of these that's revealed will get you another ore. As the game goes by, it might say automate, which means I can take one of these discs and place it up here. The more discs I have up here, the more victory points that I'll get at the end of the game. This is the board that people are going to be playing on. Over here are a bunch of actions that players can take. When it's time for you to take an action, you can place it there. But there's also 4 starting technologies. And one of the actions will allow you to take one of your population cubes, place it on a tech, and now you control that technology. So for example, let's say I pick terraforming. If I take this technology, and by the way, you can see the action to take it right here. So if I take my worker and I place them here, it means I can put one of my population cubes on a level 1 tech, even if someone else is already there. So if blue had already been here, I could still put my purple cube there and take it. Whenever you take a tech, you will get whatever immediately it says. So this immediately lets me turn one of my resources into a spaceship level 1 in deep space. But it now also opens up some more spots that I can go to in the future for worker placement. So there are 4 colors of tech that are available, and you can go to all 4 of them if you want to, as long as you spend the actions for it. There's the blue science, green is economic, red is military, and yellow is commercial. Once you're on level 1s, you'll be able to take actions to go to level 2s. So for example, if I control this one, I can go right to this level 2 here. If I control both of these technologies, if I have both of them, I can go to this level 2. When you go to find a new level 2 technology, you'll reveal the event card here and do whatever that event card says, and then you'll add a new tech. If it's the color, so this one here has to be yellow because it's coming from yellow, but if it's coming from yellow and red, you can choose. But either way you get to choose. You'll turn over cards until you draw cards that have yellow coming into them on the left. So here I keep going until I get 2 yellows, and I'll pick one of those that will be the new level 2 and put the other one on the bottom. Again, it may give me an immediate effect and then another spot that I can put things. And now there's a level 2 that I control. And once you have level 2s, you'll be able to go to level 3s and then to level 4s. All these techs will give various special abilities. There's a ton of different things in the game. And level 4s will give you some special abilities, but they also usually give you a pile of points at the end of the game. Like, for example, here you pick a location other than solar deep space, and you get points equal to your total military power there with a max of 7 points. But it also gives you an immediate thing here. Now, you might be wondering what this is talking about jumping and moving and colonizing. Let's take a look at the other board in the game. Now, as players take the jump actions or adding new spaceship actions, your spaceships can go out. They can go all the way up to level 4 from different actions on the board. And whenever you jump, that's essentially just move. So if I have jump 3, I could go 1, 2, 3. As you land on a planet, if you have the most total power on that planet, you'll be able to take one of these discs off your board, depending on the planet type. So I could take a production or a spaceship one and put it there. So that not only shows that you control that planet for now, until someone else comes in and has more power than you, but it also makes your production tracks on your board better. But once I have enough power in a spot to equal the power needed here, so let's say I have this 4 spaceship here. If I have this much power, I can use a colonize action, and there's various colonize actions on the board. This one here, where's the terraforming one? This shows up. Certain events will reveal these actions as the game goes by, but other ones will show up on cards. So when I colonize in here, I pay 4 ore and put one of my humans back on my board, and I colonize. I'll remove the spaceship, putting it back on my board. I will take this off the board here. I'm going to put another disc on it, so this lets me get rid of 2 discs, and it will give me a special ability here, and it gives me points at the end of the game. So there are 2 main ways to get points in this game, from colonizing different planets, and by the way, when you colonize them, replacements will be drawn and put on the board, and also the different techs. There are techs out here that are worth various points, but the level 1s, level 2s, and 3s are also worth 1, 2, and 3 points, respectively. Finally, there's going to be cards that are goals that you're trying to get. There will be some goals that are different per game, and then there's goals that are in every game. So, for example, Empire is in every game. The first person to colonize 4 systems will get 4 points. The first person to get their level 4 technology gets 4 points. Not only that, when you put these out on these goals, that will trigger the end of the game. When there are 4 discs out on these, and they're not easy to do, as you can see, get to a level 4 tech or colonize 4 systems. These take some time to get to. Once these discs are out, the final turn is triggered. Everyone gets 1 final turn. You'll add together all your points, and whoever has the most points is the winner. There's some other things that can be added or changed in the game. For each of the different groups, they each have a special ability, but you can play with another whole board where everything is different, where the production values are different here in the bottom. The victory points are different. You have special abilities that you will gain, and the board even shows you when and where you gain those. You can play where the techs, that when you pick a tech, instead of just drawing until you get 2 and picking between them, that you can see what techs are available in different colors. And that's a little bit more freedom to pick techs. But essentially the game is going to be different every one, because while these 4 starting techs are the same, you'll be able to have up to 6 level 2 techs, but there's more than 6 in this pile. So every game will have different techs available. Initially, I didn't know what to think about the components. I love these cubes. They're very similar. If you've seen the game Roll for the Galaxy, they're very similar to that. They look like dice. The board here is a double-layered board. Well, maybe I could call it a layer and a half. It's a very thin double-layered board, but it works. It holds the pieces in. And I was a little concerned when I first played, because I said, man, there's all this white here, and all these tech cards out here are white. But you know what? When all these cubes and everything's on the board, I think that if it wasn't white, it would be distracting. The actual deep space board itself is beautiful. The artwork there is great. The biggest problem I have production-wise is mostly because if you want to play this game, someone's going to be probably at a disadvantage. So if you look here, if I'm sitting here, I'm feeling great. If I'm sitting over here, I'm fine. The person sitting over there is going to have a hard time reading these and seeing all the cards here. Now, I can move that board over here, but still someone's going to have a problem seeing something. And one person's looking at everything on the board upside down. It's not a huge deal, but it's just something that I noticed when playing the game. I feel like there's a lot of different variety in the game. There are so many different techs. However, they're all variations of the same thing. So when I pull out a new tech and, okay, so I have multi-colony symposium, well, this is just how I get a level 3. I can skip my regular production phase. I don't get it, but I can also get a really cheap level 3 technology. Or Terra Nova cruising. There's another way to colonize a planet. And I need 1 less power. And hypercomputing lets me automate something, and oh, here's another way to get a level 3 technology. They're all variations on the same themes, but they're also all very different. The more I play Beyond the Sun, the more I'm enjoying it. Wow! I am so happy with this game. It's a tech tree that works. I mean, it's a worker placement game. It's a single worker, and you're moving your worker around and going to different spots, but the game as it goes on gets more and more diverse. You can't get every tech. You can get all the level 1s. You might be able to get all the level 2s. But if you do all the level 1s and all the level 2s, probably somebody else has branched out and got a 3 or 4 by that point. And it's really neat because I might be working on these techs and you're working on these. I'm like, oh, I like that one. I'm going to go use the same one you're using. And I'm trying to figure out the best ways to use these techs. And it's very easy in this game to get caught so much in tech you forget about the colonizing, but you can't. But the techs directly influence the colonizing and flying the spaceships around. There's a little bit of interaction in the sense that you can take an action someone else wants, like any worker placement game, but there's also the control of the different regions out there. There's a bit of a race to be the first one to colonize different planets. You're not directly fighting each other, and I'm perfectly fine with that. But there's that constant, what are you doing, what are you doing, what techs are you opening? If you open a tech, I'll look at it and go, do I want to follow suit and do that same tech, or do I want to do my own thing? In every game, even though I had some of the same techs as my opponents, there was always a tech or two that I was the only person who had it, and that just feels neat. There's even a couple cards in this game where you get your own private tech. Well, that's really cool. Where there's a tech that only you can use. Well, it's really cool if you have it. If someone else has it, I'm like, well, that's a stupid broken card. The special advanced factions, I really like them, although I'm perfectly content playing the basic factions because the text themselves gives you so much variety back and forth between them. I also don't think the game is overly long. It seems like it might be a long game. It says in here 100 minutes. That's pretty accurate. It scales pretty well. They have some boards and things that they slightly change things out for 2 or 3 players. And 3 players seems like a really good sweet spot for this. But the combination of tech to the colonization board and also the point totals between them feels like it works really well. You're shooting for those level 4 technologies because they can give you a lot of points, but you could not go for them. Pull back. You need some level 2s. Upgrade your ships and maybe just work really hard over here. Meanwhile, trying to get your board to be as productive as possible. There's not, so when I go through this game, I look at it and go, what is there that distinguishes this from other games? Well, there's the technology track, which actually means something, which I haven't seen in too many other games at all. And that might be it, but the combination, the using of this nice flow of economy and very fast turns. I'm going to do this, I'll discover a tech, get some resources, next person. And you just go around and around and around and around. It just has this nice, fast flowing feel to it. And you feel like you're growing your empire out. Even if your empire is just a couple cards in front of you, but watching your techs grow, at this point you can realize that this is a weak spot for me. I just tend to like this. But I also think it's an incredibly solid game. I played it with a variety of people. I played it with heavy gamers who enjoyed it. And I played it with lighter gamers who also liked it. I think it appeals to both. So this box size, which is an unusual size, and this may be a game you come by and go, Beyond the Sun, I don't know, space. This one feels different. This is one of the best games I've played in 2020. It's a game that I've had a great time playing. I love that every game feels different with the mixes of techs. Not to mention, I mean, there's so much in the box already, but you feel like they could make an expansion pack of more techs and more tech events, and boom, the game just keeps going. It's really neat. This might be one, there's a lot of games that are out there right now, but this is one I'm calling attention to. It's a cool, crunchy game that is not complex to get into, but the complexity comes out in the vast number of choices that you have. You want to do everything? You can't. You can only do a few things, but they're fun and interesting. Check it out. That's Beyond the Sun. I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you next time. Dice Tower Judgment. Excellent.